Pastor, will you give us the invocation, please, sir?
Yes, let's pray. Dear Father, we just thank you, God, for the opportunity to gather together here and do people's business. We thank you for the ability to debate openly and have questions and even have spirited debates, and we'll all be friends at the end. So, Lord, I just ask that you give us wisdom and guidance and revelation. Really being done, and to make the wisest decisions we can on behalf of the taxpayers who have entrusted us with their care and influence over these decisions. So, Lord, we just praise you and bless your name, and we thank you for your precious blood and thank you for your salvation to your Son Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen.
All righty. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Oh, point of order, Mr. Chair. I skipped that.
I'm so sorry. I would get Mr. Baker very upset at me. So recognition of the public. Mr. Baker.
Kevin Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road. Did you sat and listen to legislative talk about getting a free roof? And I'm all in favor of squeezing everything we can out of every penny. But when I look through that budget, there's lots of dollars. The one place that I wouldn't skimp on is a roof or anything with our buildings where we're now in bed with some third parties. I think down the road it's a bad practice to get into. We should be funding the things we need to fund. And although I stand up here many times critical of wasting money on things, if we truly need to do something, we need to do it. And not play games. You know, things that sound too good to be true usually are. And down the road, you know, I understand we're doing diligence, and I appreciate that. But should we really get in bed with some of these characters where foreign investors and all this kind of stuff, it seems like just down the road, we're going to have issues. The other thing, I mentioned it the last time this came up, the $40,000 for Val State. I'm excited to hear how the school systems are going to pony up and take some money out of their reserves to pay for that. It'll be interesting to hear. But those are the two things I want to talk to you about. Looking forward to a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Kathy Breeding.
Well, I'm Kathy Breeding, and I'm here on behalf of Ball State Adult Ed Program. But we really don't work for Ball State. Ball State holds our grant. We're Department of Labor, and Department of Labor statewide is funding the high school equivalency program and English as a second language programs for immigrants. So we're coming into every county, and where the Department of Labor, their goal is to take someone that doesn't have a high school diploma or doesn't speak English and get them into the labor force. So what we are working through is working in conjunction with schools in our system, when kids get kicked out, when they drop out, when people move here and they're nowhere near to getting enough credits to graduate from high school, they send them to us. And then we take walk-ins just about every day of immigrants that don't speak English. I was getting my nails done the other day, and the technician doing my nails didn't speak English. And when I said, hey, we have an English language program, they showed up with 5 other people. So it's, you know, they come in mass for that ESL program. And the way the Department of Labor is funding us is they give money to every county, but most counties, Williamson County, have classes in Franklin, in Lebanon. And what we've done in the past, y'all have been funding this for years. And for the time I've been here, I've been doing this almost 10 years, the stipulation has been that instead of just having classes in Gallatin, that we have classes in Gallatin, Hendersonville, Westmoreland, Portland, and White House. And that is what that $40,000 has been funding, is to have teachers and curriculum in all of the major cities in Sumner County, so that we're not just serving Gallatin, because that's a lot of students. It's hard to get them to come down off the ridge. And a lot of the immigrants are coming out of Davidson County in for the program. So that's kind of what this funding is for, is we're doing high school diplomas, and we're doing English language. And the department, being Department of Labor, they're also wanting us to do workforce development initiatives, which we're partnering with Ball State to help people get into the workforce. So we're not only getting them English training and diplomas, now the new thing this year is that we're supposed to help them get jobs, help them with their resumes, help them with interviewing skills, and they're asking us to come up with integrated education and training, and come up with work-based learning. They're wanting us to go into some of the factories that have a lot of non-English speaking workers and teach a class at that place. So we haven't started that yet. That's something else they're trying to get us to do, but we don't have the manpower to do it. So if we wanted to go into the gap and teach English there, we would have to have a separate teacher for that and separate curriculum. So that's what we're using some of this funding for. It's just additional classes throughout the county, and ultimately, they're hoping to do it at work, in work-based learning in some of the factories around town.
Thank you, ma'am.
Just want to make sure that she's going to be here when.
Ma'am, will you be here when we talk about this?
I can be.
Okay, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, because I asked questions and recognition.
No, let's wait till we get there. It's relatively. Okay. I have no report.
Item D.
Man, I am just all over the place. I skipped it and then I came back to it. All right.
So moved.
I entertain a motion to
So moved.
approve.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, now,
I'll abstain, I was absent, so.
okay, one abstention, Mr. Becker. I have no report, Mr. Mayor.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, report of the finance director, Beth. Sitting in for Mr. Loring. Good to have you.
First item, Director's report was a transfer in payroll line for IT for a comp time payout for one of their employees.
Yeah. Yeah, we need a vote on this one. I think we need a vote on this one, correct? Yeah.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, item B.
The next item is a transfer within the jail budget for overtime funds. This was not put in the original budget. They normally do not budget this because it's such a large amount. If they put it in the overtime line during the regular budget process, it would greatly inflate their budget because they have so many vacancies during the year. But they do pay out a lot of overtime in the jail. So they're asking to move part of the money from their large salary line into the overtime line.
Net zero.
Yes.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this one? I have one question, I guess. It's from Mr. Craddock. I think he's here. There's just a lot of overtime on there. I mean, I don't see an issue. I mean, is there?
We based that number off of the number of overtime spent last year.
Okay, so it's a projection based on, okay, got it. Thank you, sir. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Interbudgetary, go ahead, Beth.
Those are just the normal transfers within departments during the month. If anybody has some questions, I can try to answer those.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Mansfield?
I guess, the bridal house alarm and cell system monitoring,
Yes.
what is that? Is that a monthly or yearly fee, so what is that?
I believe that's a monthly fee. John may know more about that one. I know we're not currently paying anything extra, but we are paying Sumner County property as far as utilities.
Is that a monthly?
Yeah, it's,
Or is that a year?
I don't know if that's monthly or annual, I'll have to check on that and get back with you.
I'm gonna assume annually, I don't
These
know.
I would
should
think
be-
so.
It looks,
This should be enough to cover this.
That's what I'm
But I don't know if
assuming.
they pay it.
Any other items, Mr. Mansfield? I had one, and it was, and Ms. Browning, I apologize, I should have brought this up to you when I was up in your office earlier. The 88,000, what is a new transfer station engineering services? What is that guy? The new transfer station, it's down, it's one item, it's on the bottom.
That's for the resource authority, for their building.
Okay, got it.
Transfer station.
Okay, got it.
This is the one that took out $13 million loan.
Yes, the bond.
Yep, okay. Okay,
I do have one other item that's not on the agenda that I would just like to give you.
oh, well, we need to vote on, I think we need to vote on that interbudgetary, well, is this within interbudgetary?
Mhm.
It is, okay, sorry.
Oh, this is not. no.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and get that vote. We have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion on interbudgetary transfers? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Go
I
ahead, ma'am.
received an email from Mr. Craddock today about the juvenile detention fees for Putnam County. They're asking to increase their fee by $25 per day for any juveniles that they house for it. There's no budgetary impact with this, at least not currently. There's $350,000 budgeted for this year for juvenile detention. For fiscal year '23, we spent less than $60,000 for the entire year, and it has been steadily decreasing. Our cost for juvenile detention housing has been steadily decreasing for the past 3 or 4 years. So I don't
So does
see
this
that
need
this
a
will have
vote?
a budgetary impact, but I want you to be aware that something did come up.
Go ahead.
How much did you say is budgeted?
$350,000,
And then last fiscal year was 60?
less than 60.
Okay. And do you know what the increase to 25, like what is the rate right now?
It's 150, so it'll go up to 175. And currently, Rutherford County is charging 175.
So it's in line with
Yes.
market. Okay. And negligible impact.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Moving on to old business. Item one on the, this is a computer grant for the election commission. I think we're waiting information. I don't think we have any movement on this. Without objection, I'm going to continue to defer this. Same with item B. I understand here, I'm keeping this on here because we need to get this thing paid, but I understand, Ms. Browning, after speaking with you, that Mr. Ellis does intend to pay this ASAP.
Correct. And there is no budgetary impact to this because a payable was set up for fiscal year '22 for this amount that's due. I don't think Mr. Ellis maybe realized that it wouldn't
Yeah.
have a budgetary impact. But
Okay.
when I talked to him last week.
I look forward to him paying it, and so that we can remove this from our list. Item C, first item is, page 16, 17, Greenway repairs. And that, about $44,650. Ms. Browning, any other notes on this? I think we discussed this last time.
No, I didn't.
I would entertain a motion to approve this. This is carryover. We have a motion?
No, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, Ms. Harrison.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, we have Mr. Becker.
Y'all talked about this last month, that's all I know.
Yeah, we did, and I don't recall what the issue was for why we didn't move forward with it. It was a carryover.
Because we didn't get a unanimous vote, because I voted no.
Oh, that's right. Okay, thanks. So we just need to vote on this again. We had, so second reading here. Thanks for jogging my
the
memory.
area to south of the ridge of Long Hall?
The Flushing County.
Yeah.
It's at the Douglas Clark House, right there.
Any other discussion? Was passed once. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
We have one, we have two noes now? Okay, motion carries. It can be passed on, but we have two noes. Mr. Klein and Mr. Mansfield. All right, we just talked at length about the jail roof project. I would entertain a motion for these carryover funds so that we can move this project forward.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Mr.
I
Becker.
wasn't here for this previous meeting.
And that, you should be happy for that.
That's what I heard. So, can you give me a 30-second?
It would be difficult, but I'll try. So the idea here, we had a discussion around solar panels, a little bit about geopolitics, but then we ultimately decided that we we were gonna pursue, the will of that committee was to pursue two paths. On the one path, which is relevant here, is we're gonna fix the roof. And in parallel, we are drafting a statement of intent with a third party to investigate an option for putting solar panels on the roof, whereby it would offset some costs, but also has, some contingency that I think several folks, me included and others, worry about. But ultimately, we decided to move on to the letter of intent because it was not binding. However, this funding would be relevant to that first path, just to fix the roof. That was probably more than 30 seconds.
That's good.
Appreciate it. Anybody have anything to add on that? All right. There is a motion. There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Do we need to do this one, Ms. Browning? Do we need to have that one waive the second reading?
This was the second one.
Yeah, this would have been. Okay, so we're good. All right, great. Okay, so nonprofit donation. I would entertain probably a motion to discuss this, and then I want to get in queue.
Second.
All right, I would like to get in queue on this one. So just to note, I actually had a place to call with Dr. Langford on this to discuss. This is my opinion is that this is being a part of an education initiative should be funded under education funds through the school. And Dr. Langford was amenable to this, but needed to do a little bit of study on it. So I don't want to. I'm going to make I'd like to at some point entertain deferring this, but I know that just to let him work through it if he can in fact take care of it. I know we had questions personally to some of the comments earlier. So did you want to get in queue first, or go ahead?
How do we quantify the expenditure of this money? I mean, are there numbers of people that are?
I'm going to suspend the rules briefly because I don't think any of us here. Well, not fair. And just to be clear, I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules so we can ask questions to Ms. Breeding.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we can address you now, ma'am.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Klein.
How do you quantify the expenditures of $40,000? Is it by student? Is it? And how do you come up with $40,000?
The $40,000 that y'all have been providing for us has just been something that has been coming every year since I've been doing this. So, but it has just allowed us, where most counties have one location for classes, it has allowed us to expand into West Florida for the White House additional. So it's paying the teachers, it's buying the additional curriculum. Right now, we have free space. Sometimes, you have people ask for rent, but right now we are not paying rent to anyone. We're using public libraries, we're using churches, we're using Portland's TCAT building. But it's salaries for teachers and then curriculum for students.
So I'm going to assume it's not the full amount that you need for this
Oh,
project.
no, not at all.
Where does the rest of the revenue come from?
From the Tennessee Department of Workforce and Labor Development. Last year, we had a budget of $401,000. So the one was just that strange little number out to the side. But we spent every penny of the $401,000 and then some. Because, and it's hard to explain that we're always underfunded. Students just are constantly, it's not a normal school year, like school starting now in August and they finish next year in June. We have new student intakes every other week. And for ESL, a lot of times we have walk-ins because they bring their friends and we test them and enroll them in the program. So we have students ranging from age 16, which we greatly discourage because 16 is, they can't test until they're 17. But we get a lot of the immigrant students that are 16, but just because of the school system, they're not ready for whatever grade their age defines. But we also have 70-year-olds. We have, so that's kind of where the school board is not wanting to pay for it, because we're not looking at their normal age range. We're looking at 16 to 70 people coming in.
So we're less than 10% of your budget and it's adults?
It's Yes.
Mr. Beck, I know you had some questions.
Yes, one of my questions got answered there, but, so, you've said that we've been funding this basically $40,000 for several years.
We've always had, and it's one of those things that we just take for granted, so we're gonna get the 40,000 from Sumner County, it's something that has come every year.
Okay.
3 years ago, our budget was 236,000, we had been taken out of Ball State's umbrella into another entity, and when we came back to Ball State, our budget was just absolutely gutted, so we had to run a program of 236,000. The following year, they gave us 263,000, and we kept saying, we can't run the program on that, so the 40,000 was absolutely necessary then.
But the county has been providing for funding $40,000.
For the whole time I've been doing this, I've been doing this for 10 years, and I don't know how far back it goes.
Where, I don't know, Mr. Long not here, but do you know where that 40,000, where's that 40,000 coming from? It's been like that for however many years we're talking about. And, I guess, what's the background on how that, I guess someone saw it somewhere and obviously.
Somehow the application was,
The application was due March 1st.
Yeah.
And it's up until last year, it wasn't me, it was somebody else doing it, and she had me hand deliver it the year prior, so I hand delivered it last year, and we don't know what happened to it.
I mean,
It was not emailed, it was
yeah,
handed.
and I'm not saying you didn't, you know, but like
We didn't get it, so it's.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's wrong
Yeah.
somewhere.
okay. Okay.
Any other questions?
Not right now.
I've got one, and then, so, are there any, I feel like I've got to ask this. We're talking about folks, ESL folks, and immigrants who are here, and so they get that and appreciate it. Is there any, do you guys have any way to distinguish between folks who are lawfully residing in the United States, and are you tracking that, or are you?
We're not allowed to anymore. Until about 5 years ago, we weren't allowed to take immigrants who were not here legally. So we did track it. We had to go through we had a big book of which documents counted and which documents didn't count. And then the feds came in and said that was illegal, and we have to take everyone now. We can't ask them.
Thank you for that.
So it's against illegal residents' rights, illegal, is that?
I'm right there with you, but that's
I
exactly.
wanted to make sure I understood you.
Yeah, that we have to take anyone that comes in, unless they have, well, we're even in the jail, we're in Sumner County Jail, but because we take 16-year-olds, we can't take anybody that has any kind of crime against minors or any kind of sexual crime, simply because of having minors in the program, but other than that, we take everybody.
Mr. Schmidt,
So,
and I'll get Ms. Klein, Mr. Brown.
you asked the question I had in my notes here, so here's where I have a problem with that. When I campaigned in District 18, I met some immigrants in the older section that were, one in particular, owns a construction company. I'm not going to say specifically, but she's been here for 15 years trying to get here the legal way, through all the legal channels. So I have a problem with this now is, what I'm hearing is, we don't know, we could be spending taxpayer money on illegal immigrants here that don't come here the right way. For that reason and that reason alone, I can't support this.
Ms. Klein?
How many different languages?
All of them. We have Sudanese, we're getting a lot of Ukrainians, we have some Russians, we have a lot of Hispanic students, a lot of Chinese students, few that speak Arabic, few that speak Hebrew. We're just getting people from all over the world. I know in one of the classes I have students from Iran, Portugal, Brazil, Micronesia, Indonesia, and then every Latin American country you think of.
What a great country this is.
They want to be here so bad, and I'm right there with you. I'm speaking both of your languages, I get it, but we can't discriminate against them because of federal law. But of all the people I've met, they want to be here more than anybody I've ever met.
Mr. Brown, and then Mr. Smith back.
I haven't been a teacher. I saw whenever, we went from not having Social Security numbers as identification numbers, then we started assigning a student number, and then ones that were illegal are 999. That's what their preface was. I mean, I didn't like it. I had an ESL teacher across the hall from me. She had students from everywhere. And I saw the population shift. And as far as immigrants versus black-white, I mean, we had a huge influx at Hunter's Lane. That's where I was. So.
And I don't know. I don't know what to do, and we're getting a lot of these kids that are coming into the local high schools that, in a lot of the Hispanic countries, school's over when you're 12 unless you pay. So we're getting these kids that are 16, 17, 18, that the schools won't take them because they have a 12th grade education from wherever they're from and they don't speak English. So we are getting quite a few young kids that don't speak English.
Ms. Harrison? Okay, Ms. Harrison and Ms. Smith.
If we don't fund this, you've already stated that you're underfunded. If we did not fund this, how many jobs will go away?
40,000 would cover 2 part-time teachers, but if they were working, I say 2 part-time teachers, if they were working 28 hours a week. Most of our teachers are 2 nights a week. They work Tuesday, Thursday night from 5 to 7. So they're doing maybe. So it would be quite a few teachers when we look at those that are just doing.
And those are American citizens.
Those are American citizens. And the majority of our students are the high school equivalency classes. The ESL program is probably a third of our program, 2/3 of our program is high school equivalency, and those are American students that have either been kicked out or not.
Mr. Smith?
The problem is, some of these immigrants coming through our jail system that could potentially be illegal, that have come here, broken our laws, and we're supposed to sit here and cater to them, and, because, a few jobs might be lost. I mean, it just, to me, don't seem fair. When you have a single mom that I met over campaigning that, is trying to make ends meet, that could use a little push in life. She's done everything the right way. I cannot, again, in good conscience, vote for something like this, knowing that some of these illegals are utilizing tax dollars when I've got, constituents out there that, are struggling to make ends meet and could use a lift, and it just doesn't seem fair.
Well, I feel like, and this has been good conversation, so I'd like to think since rules are suspended, I'm gonna go ahead and come back, bring us back in under our typical rules. You have one more? All right, we'll do one more and then we're gonna come back, because ultimately I'm gonna defer this, because I talked.
Yeah, so right now, if I understand this to you right, we're offering this at Gallatin, Hendersonville, Westmoreland, all the locations.
Yes, all the major cities.
Okay. So if we just wrap that back down to just Gallatin, then that would surely save more than $40,000.
It would.
Okay, thank you.
But, and I do have to say, we probably would not do that. We would probably, I don't know what we would do, but we would try to keep them where they are, because the teachers are there, the students are there. But we can differentiate what we spend money. If you don't want to fund ESL, we can only fund the high school equivalency program with money.
I just want to make sure that they're illegal, and if they are, let's help those people. We'll start throwing taxpayer money on someone that's not here.
So let's move back, and thank you, ma'am, for that detail. So let's move back into our existing rules. I'm going to do that unilaterally because the rules are suspended, so.
Motion to defer.
Yeah.
Where you?
Well, I'm just gonna, would like to hold this off one more month to let Mr. Langford, and I don't think we need a motion here. I'm just gonna do it.
Does that need to go to the education?
No, I don't, well, if you wanna do that, we could do that.
I don't know. I thought that's what I was asking.
I made a call to Mr. Langford and just to see if he would take it on.
Motion to defer or what, if we don't need a motion, where is it at right now? Still in old business, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it in old business.
I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to kill it.
I mean, if you wanna do that, that's.
Comfortable with, $40,000 is a small amount of money, but it's their money. We can do that,
if you'd like to make that motion.
I'm making that motion tonight to kill it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion here? I'm gonna get in queue on this. I would probably be for that, but I have had a conversation with Mr. Langford, and I'm not gonna make any movement until, I've gotten back with him. So I'm gonna be against it, not on the merits, but just because I had this conversation and I want him to be able to take his shot at it.
And I did the same thing that you are. I'd like to have a little bit more further discussion before I vote against it.
Yeah, but I mean, any other discussion here? All in favor? Of your motion to kill it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2 ayes, all against? No.
Abstain.
1 abstention. Okay, so we have, Mr. Klein, Mr. Mansfield, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith, Mr. Mansfield were yes?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
No.
Mr. Klein's a no. Mr. Brown is an abstention. Mr. Becker, Mr. Harrison, Mr. Schoaf are all no's. Motion fails. And now we'll go back. I'm gonna defer this. Leave it on old business. All right, on to new business. Okay, so these are all carryovers. Item A is carryovers from capital projects. This first one's a large amount. Ms. Browning, I may let you speak to this. I know we spoke about this earlier. This is about $500,000 for vehicles that were, we had laid on for last year, but we were unable to purchase, for,
We had a PO was obtained for these vehicles, and my understanding has been talked with the sheriff's office, speaking with the vendor. They could not fulfill that, but then they realized that they had actually ordered, or bid hybrid vehicles, which is not what was in the RFP. So they canceled that PO, and they just want those funds rolled over into the current year so they can order vehicles.
Got it.
With the money from last year.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, IT, this was a COVID, this is COVID funds, but not ARPA, correct?
Correct.
Any detail on this? We have a motion, second. Any detail, Ms. Browning? Any questions?
Is this different than what we approved last year? This is carryover.
It was carried over to 23, and then what's not being used, we're not going to carry over to 24.
Correct, we've already approved
Yes.
this once.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just, clear that.
All in favor? Any opposed? All righty. Liberty Creek, Park project, entertain a motion? A motion from Ms. Harrison and a second from Mr. Becker. Any discussion here? I have one question. I think, Mr. Mayor, any detail on that?
It's just miscellaneous expenses outside of the grant. So if we need to make filings with register of deeds or any type of projects like that we need to do, it's just carrying it over from last year. We don't have a specific expense for it right now.
And this is outside of the Liberty, this is county property?
Yeah, it's
not school, it's not, because I feel like we've discussed this.
Yeah, it is school, it's part of that park project that we have that grant.
Right.
Some outside funds that go with that. And this is what's left of those outside funds that go with
Okay.
the grant.
Got it. Mr. Mansfield?
So this is part of the $500,000 grant commission to platform 2020?
Yes, sir.
This is a very specific amount to be kind of random, so.
It's what's left.
Oh, this is just
Yeah.
from that $500,000 grant.
Well, it's outside expenses of that 500.
So it's, if you look at it, it's a December end year, so it's year end and then add over to other construction. This is what's left.
100,000 has been appropriated in fiscal year 20, and this is what's left.
Yeah. And we'll lose this, right? I mean, if we don't.
No, this is in the
Well, we don't-
local,
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
local
in-
capital project.
Okay, well, I mean, anyway,
So what are we doing?
we're basically,
You're just carrying over what's left from last year. So we
I guess
continue the project.
I guess the question is, are there any specific items that this is gonna be used for? No, it's just a pot. Mr. Becker.
So we're understanding, saying right, everything below number one, carryover, all of these A, B, C, and there's
Correct.
2 C's, but I guess D, all those are carryover. So the money's there, there's no new money, it's just earmarked for this.
Correct.
So these are just, we're voting to continue to have that earmark for these items. So that's what that is. So just for clarification.
Mr. Mansfield.
What is the status of that, I think it's a historic home on that property?
Part of that grant is to restore that historic home.
Is it complete or
Where we are with it, I'd have to report later. I don't have a specific update on that. I apologize.
Any other questions on this? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Highway, $323,000. Yep. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Oh, I'm gonna vote no on this one, just because I wish I would have voted differently on the floor on this, just because of just the due diligence issues.
Okay. So we have one no. Mr. Mansfield, motion still carries. So the next one is, carryover from ARPA. That's the $50,000. This, what was this for, Mr. Browning? This is for the, a vehicle? Or?
No, when Ms. Harden was here, she stated that she was short on some revenues during COVID, so she had asked for this appropriation. She wasn't actually short in her revenue after we did some research, but the funds were appropriated and such.
So I actually had a question on, and we had to leave a little earlier here. This is one that kind of, I can't figure out what we're doing with it. So, yeah.
It's supposed to be supplementing, if I'm not paving, or equipment, purchase at the time, if I can remember. That's what it was said. It might have been equipment purchase, like a one-time capital.
We didn't put it into an equipment line, we just put in other charges, but
So
she wasn't sure what.
So this was a request, I don't remember this request, and I'm just surprised, I'm just to hear that it wasn't what it was requested for and it wasn't needed. I'm just kind of a little bothered by that. So, I mean, can we move to strike this and put it back in
Into the ARPA? I mean, let me ask this question, and I don't know if, Mr. Ellis is here. Is this earmarked for anything specific? I mean,
And I'm gonna make a motion to put it back in office.
all right. Any discussion? Oh, go ahead.
I will say this, over the week, last week, is a county vehicle was sitting in his driveway and was vandalized. So, I don't know if he's gonna have to have one vehicle or more, I don't know.
I mean,
But at some point, I'm just letting you know kind of what happened. I'm not saying yea or nay.
that's fine. I mean, I get it. We can ask for a vehicle.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this? The motion on the table is to strike this and move it back into the, overall ARPA funding, balance. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. All right. Item C is 8,800, two items. They're both very small. $8,800 insurance coverage for light pole damage.
Motion approved and approved. C1 and 2.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, on this, $203, I would like, if possible, to continue that program this year. So I'd like to, if we could expand this, be a resolution to do it.
I'll make an amendment, to add a resolution in conjunction with passing this, to add a resolution to continue the corporate Christmas unspent donations as a line item. So if we can draft that up. All right. We're on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment?
Just for clarification, if I remember correctly, you said this was private donations,
Yes.
correct?
Everything is private donations.
Yes, I just wanted everybody to understand that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now back on the main, group and approve C1 and 2. All in favor?
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're wanting to continue the program, what amount are you expecting, what's the amount we need to appropriate?
Typically what we collect,
correct.
But we can put it at 35,000 like we did last year.
Without, yeah. It's continuation of what it was, continuation of what it was
We
last
only
year.
received 10.
Continuation of what it was last year was what was on the, so, exactly as it was. Okay, moving on to what should be D, apologies there. Sheriff's Office, this is a unspent donation and a grant, mental health kind of pass-through grant.
Motion to approve D1 and D2.
All right, we have a motion to group and approve D1 and 2. Any discussion on these? Mr. Klein?
Underground unspent donation. I'm totally confused. What is that?
They received a grant, Sheriff's Office did, from a group called Tennessee Underground.
This is for instructional supplies.
We have, Mr. Craddock here, if we want to ask a question.
Instructional supplies to be used for active shooter training.
I'd entertain
From April.
a motion to suspend the rules for the purpose of allowing to address.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Please address them, Mr. Craddock.
So right after Covenant happened, Tennessee Underground, which is an underground utility company, reached out to us. We have a pretty good relationship with him. He's a victim of a pretty significant crime and said that he didn't want to talk about how to help, he just wanted to do something. So he wrote a $20,000 check for us to do that this year.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Craddock? Go ahead, Mr. Klein.
So what is the question? This is unspent, so we're just gonna carry it over?
Yes, these are all carryovers. All right, moving back, we're back under rules now. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor to group and approve D1 and 2? Any opposed? All righty. So, new request, Sheriff's Office, $159,000, almost $160,000, for SRO expenditures. I'd entertain a motion either to approve or to discuss.
I make a motion to discuss.
Yes, second.
All right, with floor's open. Who'd like to get in queue?
Now, this is something that, I've already talked with the 4 board members and also, Dr. Langford about whenever we get this money that they're writing the grant for, and also the sheriff's department can also write a grant for it too, to get the executive order 97, money to pay for the SROs that we have. Now, we're not trying to increase the maintenance effort on the sheriff's department or anything like that, get more SROs. We just want to use that money, and then I told them to whatever money we have given for the SROs, bring that back to us on a budget request to transfer the money so that we can harden the schools. And this right here, who is asking for this money? Exactly, is it the, Sheriff's Office.
I mean, it's.
So this is within your
for
purview, that you're not, school is not paying for this, correct?
So we've got to, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. If we want to ask any questions of Mr. Craddock, and we can do or not do, I'm going to need to suspend the rules.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, Mr. Craddock, back on the hot seat.
So this comes from the SRO grant from years ago when we first started expanding the program. Last year, I think the state sent a $232,000 check as part of that grant. This is not part of the governor's new grant. So,
Well, I know that.
empirically, we've always taken some of that money and appropriated it specific to their uniforms, their training, et cetera. And that's all this is.
So the way I understand this, Ms. Browning, correct me here, this looks to me like an interbudgetary transfer, but it's not because it's under 2 different line items. Is that correct?
It is not a transfer, it's an appropriation. So we receive the revenue, and
Right.
we bill the schools for a portion of the non-payroll expenditures. So that's what part of, or most of this is. At the beginning of fiscal year 23, we haven't closed our books yet, so I don't have the final numbers. At the beginning of fiscal year 23, the balance in that assigned account was $437,000. They have, during fiscal year 23, they received just over $212,000. They spent just over $91,000 in non-payroll expenditures. So they have plenty of money in this assigned fund balance to cover this $159,000.
And it would, and the implication of that is that this does not change maintenance of effort at all.
No,
My question is, what percentage does the school pay the SRO any, or is it the sheriff's department? So the school pays nothing?
yes, they sent us a check for $212,812 this year,
Okay.
Ms. Klein?
That's just this year?
fiscal year 23.
Okay.
Ms. Klein?
What is an example of a non-payroll expenditure?
Last year we used the equipment line to buy our office.
Okay.
So specific, uniforms, anything that's not salary.
Okay.
Motor vehicle, like there's several there. Mr. Becker?
So it's not a transfer, so is this a new money request? I'm a little confused.
It's an appropriation because the money is sitting in an assigned fund balance account. It is not, we just need to get the money into an expenditure line. for the next year.
That's what I was,
Okay, so it's just,
yeah. But it's not new money, it's an appropriation between line items.
motion approved.
All right, we have a motion and a second, but go ahead.
Of course, I did send that link for the grant funding to Sheriff Woodford, so
We've already applied for the grant and
okay.
been in dialogue back and forth about something.
All right, I'm gonna move us back on the rules. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Any opposed? All righty, motion carries unanimously. Drug control fund, $34,000 for tasers.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All righty. Justice funds for case proceeds, page 69 for any details. Motion to, we have a motion.
Can we ask another second reading?
Did these, yeah, I guess all of these, they have all been, well, we can get, here's what we do. We can get through them, and then we can group them again with all of it. Let's do it that way.
My motion's to approve.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any, Mr. Klein?
What is justice funds for case proceeds?
What is DTF?
Drug task
Your task force.
They receive proceeds from, a percentage of proceeds from cases that they work on. They do not know when the cases are due.
These are fines?
I'm not sure what else, I mean, it
Probably
could be where they confiscate property.
Complicated, yeah, sales of vehicles.
Right,
That
they
type of
work on
stuff.
the case and they are eligible for a percentage. They have no idea when they'll get the money or how much they'll receive.
Okay.
They typically ask for an appropriation with the original budget. They did not do that this year. And normally it's $85,000. This actually, is sitting under the sheriff's purview. So anything they expend out of these funds, it has to be approved by the sheriff. But, in talking with David, the DCF director, and David decided that $25,000 would be a good amount to set aside. So when they do receive the funds, they can spend anything.
Okay, so it's all within their department?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Last one is, EMA, this is almost $126,000. For, most of this is, actually appears to be radios, starting to pay 70 and 90, at least the majority of what that amount is. We have a motion, second. I would like to suspend the rules because I do see, the EMA director here, and I would have one question for him. And it's on the,
Second.
all right, all in favor? Suspend the rules? Any opposed? All right. Hey, thank you for comment. I have one question for you, and that is, these radios, are these tied into that overall system? So are there any, is this gonna tie us, is there gonna be any additional fees? Because I know that, so there are no additional kind of maintenance fees or anything else that we're locking ourselves in on this?
So, we keep a cache of radios, and some of the caches are depleted, and Sheriff's Office has cache, EMS has cache, we have cache.
Okay.
And they've been depleted, through, either damaged radios or additional personnel being added.
Okay.
And, it's just something.
But this won't increase the licensing fees or any of that we have to pay, which are considerable, I think.
It'll replace radios that come out of service or.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
All right, got it. Any other questions? Go ahead.
All of these line items are just for radios?
No.
Cameras and stuff.
And I can explain what you see for it.
Oh, never mind.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
You're saying it's all security?
Yes.
Yes.
It's all security, pretty much.
It's all much to it, yes, sir.
Yep. Okay, any other questions here?
It's all passive.
Yeah, just the reason I asked about the radios, when you break it down, the radios account for 42,000 of it. And so I just want to make sure we weren't signing ourselves up for more license fees. Any other questions here? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll come back, move back under our rules. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to group and approve A through D, waiving the second reading.
Motion.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. All righty. Moving on to B here. Sheriff's Office, body cameras, and a 5-year service. Mr. Browning, you want to give us some detail on this?
Okay, so during the FY '24 budget cycle, the Sheriff's Office asked for an appropriation in the capital projects fund, $45,585 for cameras. They requested a PO for this amount, and on looking at all their documentation, we realized that roughly $35,000 of that is for service fees for years 2 through 5. We cannot pay those fees from the capital projects fund. I'm not sure what page that is, it's the third page. Of this.
93.
93. Okay, so the $10,305 on the first line is for the hardware and fees for the first year. That can come from capital project fund. The subscription fees for the other 4 years would have to come from the sheriff's budget. Since it paid ahead, you have to pay for it now. It would be a prepayment, so it would not show as a budgetary expenditure until the year that it's incurred. So we show it as a prepayment on our books, we go ahead and pay it, and then those years 2 through 5, we would expense that in the sheriff's budget.
So the way I understand this is, when we're speaking about this, the county, from the general fund, applies it all up front, and then the subsequent 4 years, we're going to charge the sheriff. Sheriff's going to kind of owe back to that $8,000 a year, roughly.
It'll show as an expenditure in his budget.
It's just kind of an accounting.
The commission would have to approve.
It's appropriation issue.
Yeah. Any other questions on this?
But it moves from the capital projects to the 35,000 expense.
We can't move between funds. That expense would go away. Roughly $35,000 would be used by capital projects.
Correct.
So
That's what I tried to say at least. So 10,300 would be out of capital projects, and then 35 would be used out of
general
General
general.
fund.
Yeah.
And then,
unassigned funds.
Motion approved.
all right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this one? All right. All in favor? Before we do this, does this, waive second reading?
Yes.
Okay. Motion, with waiver of second reading. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Second reading is waived. All right, tax refunds.
So motion.
All right, all in favor? Aye. We have a motion to adjourn. Here we go.
An hour.
We did it in an hour.
We've had to do taxes.